Welcome back to my channel on the exploration of Japanese traditional music, both in its traditional and modern forms. Today, I want to start a multi-video series comparing the two major theatrical genres in Japanese traditional music, which includes no-gaku and kabuki. What my goal is with this video series is not to just define, but to really feel what makes these genres what they are. What makes no, what at heart is essential for it to be a no play, that if we took it away, it would no longer be no. And in comparison, what makes kabuki kabuki? And at heart, what really is the goals of kabuki, that if you took that away, it would no longer be a kabuki play. To be able to really enjoy and understand these arts at a very base level, I would like to go over a few basics. What is no? So if I were asked to define no in a short, simplified sentence, I would say no is maximum effect from a minimum of means. Maximum effect from a minimum of means. This is the heart of no. It's about exploring the depths of human emotion, the depths of history, the depths of the universe through as little as possible. At its heart, no is meditation. It is very much based off of Buddhist Zen meditation, and there's a lot of elements that we see in Buddhist Zen that we also see in no, and this is not a coincidence. This was actually very purposeful. There's a lot of simplicity on the stage. We don't have a lot of background decorations. We don't have a lot of props. We don't even have a lot of crazy movements or even a lot of characters on stage. It's very minimum of means, but it has a very deep, profound effect if you give it a chance. I like to compare this to reading a really good book. To me, no is a great artistic novel. Novels have no pictures. Novels have no sound effects. Novels have no moving video. Novels are nothing but words. But how those words are constructed and how those words affect you changes depending on who's reading the novel. That, I believe, is really at the heart of no. You don't need a lot of explanation because there is no correct answer. You get to decide from your own experience what you are feeling, what you're experiencing, and what it all means to you in the end. But let's take this a little bit further. Now, I need to preface this whole thing with a really important statement. I am not a no professional. I am not even that great of a no amateur player. I studied no seriously for about 3 years in Japan and a little bit in Hawaii as well. So I understand the basics of no. I have done shimai, dancing. I have done the no kan, the no flute. And I've done a lot of the hayashi or the rhythmic parts. And I have also done utai or the chanting. However, I'm not a professional. My specialty is research and composition. So I definitely have researched and studied and really took to heart these no rhythms in terms of how I can incorporate them in modern music, as well as for my research on shamisen music. However, that does not make me a professional player. Not even close. So the whole point of today is not to give you a professional's point of view on the music, but instead to give you a researcher's point of view on the music and give you a chance to sort of taste and try the music minimally. Then if you like what you're experiencing, I will give you resources so you can go out and not only see the professionals do it, but also get access to some of the teachers in the area and be able to learn it yourself. So let's talk about no and the history of no and where no came from and what the heck no is all about. No has a long history in Japan. It stems from popular entertainment in Nara during the Heian period. This includes genres like sangaku, which later turned into other genres like sarugaku. Most of these genres are also influenced by Chinese entertainment as well, which makes sense because during the Heian period we have a lot of musical genres and Buddhism all coming directly from China. Furthermore, no has some roots in other ritual offering dances. Usually they had to do with agriculture. These are called dengaku, as well as some ritual dances that were happening at temple banquets. However, the no that we know today really wasn't created until the later half of the Kamakura period and the early part of the Muromachi period. No at this time was being funded by the samurai class, the shogunate, and other high-ranking nobles. This is significant. No is not being paid by poor farmers. This is not low-class entertainment. This is already high, noble class entertainment. Furthermore, no also came under the influence of some Muromachi period's popular arts, including Zen Buddhism. Ink painting as well is part of the Zen genres. What's interesting about ink painting, what's interesting about Zen rock gardens, is this beauty of the space between things and nothing. If we look at an ink painting, it's about the beauty of not just the black and what the black is showing you, but also the beauty of the white, the no space, the absence of space, and really focusing on both of these parts. Furthermore, if we look at rock gardens, the true beauty is in between all of the rocks. And in between all the rocks, we don't have flowers growing. Maybe we get moss, but it's pretty rare. Everything is very organized and controlled, but there's beauty in that. And there's beauty in looking at the space and finding meaning in the space. This is also part of our theory of Ma. If I was to explain it simply, Ma is giving emphasis to the spaces between, to the moments between, to the space that exists, but there might be nothing there. And this is true for music. We really emphasize and give importance for the moment between two pitches when nothing is happening. This is true in ink painting, where we give emphasis to the white space, even though that's not technically the image we're looking at. This is true for Zen Buddhist rock gardens, where it's not about the rocks themselves, it's about the spacing and everything in between. And this is all at the core of no gaku or no plays. Later on, during the Edo period, no became the official performing arts of the military government. So once again, even during the Edo period, no is being funded by people who have money, by the higher class. One more quick thing I would like to bring up. If we want to know who the father of traditional modern no is today, most people would say that person is Zemi. He was the son of a famous no actor, Kanami, and while they were traveling and performing together, the shogun Yoshimitsu Ashikaga saw Zemi perform on stage, was blown away, and said, "You are coming with me. I will fund your life. I will take care of you. And all I want you to do is to create new plays. I want you to act for me, and I will take care of the rest." And from there, Zemi wrote over 250 plays, many of which are still performed today. So most of the standard no plays you're going to see were probably created by Zemi. And he also came up with the whole theory behind what makes no no. All of the pedagogy and mindset behind no really stems from Zemi. Now, before I go on, today we're not going to really talk about Kyogen, but if you ever go to see a no performance, you will also probably get to see a Kyogen performance. So no and Kyogen developed at the same time, side by side, and traditionally and still today, you see a no performance and then a Kyogen play, a no performance and then a Kyogen play. So what's the difference? Well, if I was going to say it simply, no is your really serious, deep, rich poetry. Kyogen is your interlude comedy play. If you ever think nobles are boring people because all they do is watch this meditative theater genre, remember, Kyogen exists right next to it, and Kyogen is kind of the, silly break that you get after a really serious no play. So that's the basic history or introduction to no. Obviously, it's still around today. There were some changes during the Meiji period, but generally no has been preserved and has found its place within modern society. And there's a lot of really neat modern adaptations to no, even some really great English no done by Theater no Gaku. I'll put a link down below. But what I'm really interested in today is trying to experience what is it like to do this maximum effect from minimum means. One of the things I would like to focus on in this first video is the hayashi. When I say hayashi, I'm talking about the playing ensemble within No. We actually have 3 percussion instruments and one I would call an honorary percussion instrument. It is technically a percussion instrument, even though it doesn't look like it. So our 3 main percussion instruments are taiko, ōtsuzumi, or sometimes it's called okawa, and kotsuzumi. Our honorary percussion instrument is our no-kan, or the no flute. Now you might be saying, hey, wait a minute, that's a flute. That can't be a percussive instrument. But as we'll find out, the role of this flute, as well as how the flute was constructed, very much makes it a percussive instrument. Of these 4 members of the hayashi, as we call them, yes, the flute is part of this percussive group. We have some basic pairings. The first big pairing is between the kotsuzumi and the ōtsuzumi. How their names are similar also shows that they are a pair of instruments that usually work with each other. They have a lot of call and response patterns. They usually work together as a set. Would be the taiko and the no-kan. In many cases, the no-kan is just glorifying the taiko's rhythm. Now, of course, there are times the taiko is playing with ōtsuzumi and the kotsuzumi, and there's times that the no-kan plays all by itself. There's lots of variation going on here, but generally, the no-kan is somewhat linked to the taiko part, and it's actually somewhat playing the taiko rhythms, and the kotsuzumi and ōtsuzumi are playing off of each other. They're set. Now, let's go back to this concept of ma, this idea of suspending space through music. How does this happen for the kotsuzumi and the ōtsuzumi? Well, this can really be seen in a lot of the patterns that they perform. And we can see the difference between patterns that are really heavy with ma and patterns that are not. And a really good example of this are 2 basic patterns that can be heard in basically every no play. Those patterns are the mitsuji and the suzuki. Let's take these patterns apart. We're going to start with the suzuki. Suzuki meaning to suzukeru, or to continue. The suzuki is kind of more of a Western rhythm. It has the sense of time moving forward. It doesn't rely a lot on this heavy concept of ma. How does this pattern work? Well, it starts with the ōtsuzumi, which is our hip drum. Now, as you can see, I don't have the actual drums here, nor am I a professional hayashi player. So please forgive me for not being perfect at all this, but just to show you the general idea. Yo, ho, ho, yo, ho. So Suzuki pattern has this very forward pattern. In the middle of this, even though the pattern starts with the okawa, and as we will see in a lot of this music, generally when these 2 instruments are paired together, the kotsuzumi, ōtsuzumi, the ōtsuzumi or the okawa starts the pattern. It is the caller, the kotsuzumi is the answerer. Every once in a while they change, and that's really exciting when they change up. But generally the okawa starts. So the okawa is the one who starts with the first hit. After that, the kotsuzumi responds. Let's remember kotsuzumi is a shoulder drum, so it's actually on our shoulder, and we hit up here. So we hear a hit first in the ōtsuzumi, and then we answer. So we have a hit, yo, ho, ho. Once again, the pattern is very straightforward. If we put it together, it is just simply hit, 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 together, 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 hit, hit. And so it just has this feel of continuing forward, like the word suzukeru. We're just continuing to move forward. What's important here is there really is no sense of suspending the time. There's no sense of highlighting the space between the notes. Instead, the pattern is just continuously going forward. This is in contrast to another pattern called mitsuji. And mitsuji is all about stretching out the beat and really showing off this concept of ma. So we first start with our ōtsuzumi, our hip drum. This mitsuji pattern would start like this. Yo, ho. And that's it. So all of those sounds and all of that time held between the two hits are probably more important than the actual two hits themselves. So once again, we have a hit. Yo, ho. And you should feel the drama that's happening between those two hits. And depending how long I hold it out, I can really stretch this beat. I can make it really long. I can make it really short. If I wanted to make it longer, it could sound like this. Or I can make it shorter. And that changes that feeling of ma, that weight of that ma, the length of that ma. How long are we going to suspend the time? What's really neat about the mitsuji pattern is it kind of takes away the feeling of time altogether. And it feels like time has been suspended and we're waiting for it to move again. Now, if we go to the kotsuzumi pattern, we have this. So we have the hit, the yo, the ho, the hit. Kotsuzumi takes the komi. Yo. Ho, ho. Now this might feel like it's moving more continuously forward, but once again, the suzumi has the power here to either slow down the beat or speed up the beat. So for example, if the suzumi you want to slow it down, we first have the ōtsuzumi, hit, hit, then we have yo, ho, ho. And I can really drag out this phrase. Or if I want to speed it up, once again, the ōtsuzumi, hit, hit. We have yo, ho, ho. And you can actually start moving it forward. And what you actually find is the mitsuji and the suzuki patterns are put right next to each other. You start with the mitsuji that leads into a suzuki that also will lead back to a mitsuji. And so if you know it's about ready to lead to a suzuki, a lot of time the kotsuzumi will start speeding up to lead into the suzuki pattern. So if we were to put these two patterns together, we might get something like this. Yo, ho, yo, ho, ho, yo, ho, ho, yo, ho, ho, ho. Yo, ho, yo, ho, ho, yo, ho, ho, yo, ho, ho, ho. Once again, depending on the mood of the play, depending on the mood of the lyrics at that moment, depending on what you're trying to express, both of these patterns can be sped up, slowed down, purely through the kakegoe. The kakegoe being how I'm using my voice both as a musical addition to the music as well as a mean to direct the time. And the difference between these two patterns is really quite clear. Mitsuji is your pattern where you can really pull on the overall pacing of the piece and create a lot of weight and heaviness and emotional meaning when it's important. And Suzuki instead gives you the ability to move forward, to create excitement, and go on to the next part of the piece. And many times these two rhythmic patterns are placed side by side, so you have a stretching of the beat, and then you have a moving forward, and then you stretch again, and then you move forward. And other times they're really far away from each other. It all depends on the piece at hand. So in No, what the musical interest is not the rhythm itself. Instead, it's the relationship of these two instruments. When are they pulling on the beat between them and really stretching it out and creating lots of space between two hits, which we do call ma? Or when are they condensing that space destroying them all and moving it forward. Here, what is really important is the reality that even though the same rhythm is being done over and over and over again, how it's being performed is changing. And that change is directly related to what is going on stage to the dancer. Is the dancer moving faster? Is the dancer moving slower? And it's also directly related to the text. What is the meaning of the play itself? What is being said by the chorus? And how do we interpret that in the drumming? And this is what makes No performances so exciting. So, before heading into our playing example from Hagoromo, our Kuse section, I would like to go over what is happening in this beginning intro. So generally, a No phrase is 8 beats. When we perform the Mitsuji pattern, we actually start on the last beat of the phrase before. So if we look at the music, I label that as beat 8. This is coming from the phrase before. They're overlapping 2 phrases. So if we had 2 Mitsuji patterns in a row, we would have the ōtsuzumi, yo, ho, hit, kotsuzumi, yo, ho, ho. And that last 8 beat, both instruments actually hit together because that's beat 8. And then we'll have another yo, ho, hit, and then kotsuzumi, yo, ho, ho. So sometimes our beats are overlapping, which is why I write 8 at the very top, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Suzuki, on the other hand, doesn't have an overlapping beat, and so that's not an issue. So if we take a look at our example for Hagoromo, the Kuse, at the very beginning, we see we have a shortened 8-beat phrase, meaning we don't do the whole 8 beats, we only have 4 beats here. So the patterns we start with cannot be Mitsuji or Suzuki because we don't have the full 8 beats. Instead, we have a yadori and a hitsudori. You can see on the notation that I have created, the rhythm name I give for the ōtsuzumi is sometimes different than the rhythm name I give the kotsuzumi. That's because sometimes they're interlocking 2 different rhythm patterns at the same time. This is something else we can do in No music. It's pretty exciting. But anyhow, we start with a shortened phrase, and then we finally get our Mitsuji. Now you might notice I actually write the kotsuzumi part as a kan mitsuji. That's because it's not a pure mitsuji pattern. There is a little bit of a difference, but generally this is our mitsuji. Then the next 8-beat phrases, we have a pure mitsuji pattern. Then in the next 8-beat phrases, we have a mitsuji pattern in the kotsuzumi, but in the ōtsuzumi, we have a little bit of a different pattern, and you can see right away there are less hits. Then we move on to a pure Suzuki pattern. After Suzuki, we go right back to a pure Mitsuji pattern. So we have this kind of exciting moving forward, and then it should feel like it's pulling back. So moving forward, we have some more Suzuki and Mitsuji patterns, and you can see that at first the ōtsuzumi plays a Suzuki pattern and then a Mitsuji pattern, and opposite of that, the kotsuzumi plays the Mitsuji pattern and then the Suzuki pattern. and it changes this feeling of how much we could actually pull versus how much we're moving forward. Next, we come up to another yadori or tori pattern, meaning it is a shortened 8-beat phrase. It's only a 4-beat phrase pattern. From there, we have a number of combinations of mitsuji patterns with some other decorations in the ōtsuzumi part. Then we go back to a mitsuji suzuki combination between the ōtsuzumi and the kotsuzumi. Once again, as soon as we get a suzuki, it should feel like it's moving forward again. And then we get another shorin 4-beat long pattern, which should feel like the music is suddenly stopping. Then we get our mitsuji pattern, which if there's a good setup can make us feel like we're starting to move forward. And then we get the suzuki, so we really have this excitement happening again. Go back to a mitsuji pattern, and I end on this sort of exciting kashira futatsu or a kan suzuki pattern. On from this. That's not the end of the piece. But really what this should show you in a very short amount of time, the dramatic difference between when the ensemble is playing a mitsuji pattern versus when the ensemble is playing a suzuki pattern. So let's listen to this and look at what the drummers are doing while they are beating out this pattern. what you see through this example is this pushing and pulling of the time. You have these moments it feels like the time is moving forward, and then you have these moments it feels like the time is just being stretched out and you have no idea when it's going to move again. This is very much found in the idea of ma and the idea of a minimal approach to most effectively create this feeling of pushing and pulling the time. This is only 2 instruments. It's only a simple drum beat. It's only them talking to each other. And yet it very effectively pushes and pulls the time, and it creates this whole world of music only with 2 patterns. Now, to be clear, in no music, there's more than just 2 patterns, but these 2 patterns can be found basically in every play all the time because there's so many different ways you can express them just by pushing and pulling the overall time that there really is no boredom of reusing them over and over again. I hope you enjoyed. I would love to hear about your experiences down below in the comments. Next week, we will go into a little bit more about no, and then later we will go into kabuki and compare no to kabuki to really clearly feel the difference between no traditional art and kabuki traditional art. Bye!